Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to this beautiful Wednesday morning. It's actually supposed to be really hot here today in Minneapolis. I'm going to take advantage of it. I hope everybody else does too, because fall is coming. Thanks so much again, like I said, for joining us. I am Jen Green. If you do not know me, I'm from Property House here in the Twin Cities Metro. Beside me is Tina Palma and Matt Hodgkowitz of Wisco Property Solutions. We're going to be talking about integrating business systems and automation into your business. Just for those folks, like I said, that don't know me though, we are, like I said, located in the Twin Cities. We help folks out who need to sell their homes quickly for cash or terms, more or less in a distress situation. So those folks who may be facing a foreclosure, divorce, bankruptcy, incarceration, any of those types of situations, we're able to help and come to a conclusion that works for everybody. And so Matt and Tina kind of do the same thing as well. They're located in Wisconsin. So welcome, you guys. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. I guess we should have talked about how to pronounce Matt's last name beforehand.
Did I not say it right?
Hodgkowitz. That's okay, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
You're fine. Yeah, we do the same thing here in Wisconsin. We are just south of Green Bay. And essentially, yeah, that's what we do as well.
Yep. We work with homes that are, for whatever reason, distressed or unable to sell traditionally. And we work with those homeowners to find a win-win situation as well. We can purchase those from them, pretty minimal time frame, hoops to jump through, all those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I wanted to bring you guys on today because even in our coaching group with REI Blueprint, you guys coach for them as well. And then also we're in a coaching group together. You've kind of become more or less like the gurus and teach this at, the REI Blueprint boot camps about setting up systems and businesses and in your business and automation processes, all that kind of stuff. Well, I know that sometimes it may not be like the sexy part, more or less, of, flipping homes and whatnot. It's really, really essential and important, for people to make sure that they have their business set up properly. So what would you say why is it important for you to have that set up in your business?
Well, I think it's important to decide how do you want it to run and then set up a system around that. Once you've set up the system to just automatically go, it stops taking your energy and mind space around that because you've already made the decisions and now it just goes. So you assign the right people in the right places to make the tasks happen as decided in advance. And it allows you to focus on other things that are more important in your business.
Yeah, for sure. And then, in this business, marketing is really the blood of everything. And you've got to be consistent with it. And I feel like without systems, when we first got started, we didn't put those systems in place, and just trying to keep track of your leads and your data. It was so tasking, the daily grind of that. And we weren't consistent. You'd get a lead and you'd want to go pursue that. And then you'd kind of forget about the marketing part. And we really quickly learned that we've got to automate this, and we need some systems to do that with it.
So what are some of the things that you guys did first? You're saying that you got overwhelmed some, by all of the, keeping track of things. And I mean, where does somebody start when they're feeling super overwhelmed? Because I mean, it really can be, like you said, when you're trying to market and trying to do, 10 different things at a time, that can get really consuming.
Well, I think scheduling time, honestly, to work on your business will help drastically, because I think so many people budget their time to be in the business and they stop the on the business stuff. And when you do the on the business is when these decisions get made. This is where you decide these are all the tasks that have to occur, and then who should be doing them and how should they be done. So when we started, we did everything. And then we quickly started evaluating which tasks aren't worth our time, which tasks we don't like doing, and then how do we have other people in our business help us accomplish those tasks that are kind of looking for a side hustle. And that was the very first thing we did, was find people that were willing to make a little money on the side doing some of the more mundane things that we didn't have the time or interest in actually doing.
Yeah. And even when we got started, even before, not everybody can afford to get an assistant. Maybe right off the bat, they say, I don't have the funds for the business, but getting some of these systems in place so that even the tasks that because a lot of people as an entrepreneur, you start out your business, it's a solo entrepreneurship where you're doing everything. trying to find the system that works so that you say, well, at least if I do these tasks every day, and these are the systems I'm going to use, I can get done with those tasks within, 2-3 hours. And I know that I've got to do that consistently every day so that I can go do all the other things that have to happen in the business.
Right. I mean, for us especially, I think it's important to note, I mean, I would say the CRM is probably the most important thing that you have, right? The client relationship manager, or however you want to, denote those three, same thing. But would you say like that's probably the most essential piece for people to really get started, is like to set up their CRM and whatever, whichever CRM they choose for their business?
It's definitely one of the top ones, that's for sure. I mean, I think you have to come up with a way. Our dog always likes to get involved when we do these things.
That's good. We like doggies.
I think it's important to determine how are you going to handle those leads so that you're consistently marketing to them. And the CRM is a really great way to do that. It allows you to upfront create a marketing plan, but then also a follow-up plan. And I think the follow-up plan is easily as important as the upfront.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, when getting started, we talk to a lot of people, and that's one that's usually kind of forgotten about. So when you're getting a list of leads, however you're acquiring that data and you're going to try to work those leads, you really need a CRM. You need an action plan to put together to say, this is how often I'm going to, try to reach out to these leads. How am I going to get in touch with them? And, if you don't get in touch with them, what does that follow-up look like? Or maybe they're a mediocre lead who's not right now, but maybe down the road, they want to work with us. How do we put that into some sort of a follow-up so we don't forget to reach back out to them? And that's where that CRM is just so important. We were actually just talking about this weekend. When we got started, I had spreadsheets for everything. I had these leads coming in here and this, and we were doing different campaigns. And at one point we had 5 different spreadsheets where, if somebody called me and said, sorry, the house has already been sold, I had to go find 5 different places to take them off that list. It just wasn't very efficient. So we very quickly realized we've got to get a CRM in place so we can track all of this data in one spot. And so for me, I think that's definitely one of the top 1 or 2 items that is essential in any business, is to track those leads consistent with some sort of a CRM.
Okay. So you kind of talked about a little, which kind of led me into my next question that I wanted to talk about is, you're saying, okay, we're reaching out to these people and then there needs to be a follow-up plan. And so that really makes me think about and pinpoint automation, right? Automation, I think, is also extremely important because you don't necessarily need to be doing all of these tasks, but there could be some automation, whether it's, a virtual assistant doing it or your CRM doing it. Talk to me about the importance of automation and what you guys have found.
Well, we talked about earlier where if you're not doing it consistent in your business, somebody has to, and automation can be a big part of that. So that can be either, like we said, hiring an assistant to do it or putting the systems in place to do that automation. What we try to do at a very root level is figure out how we're going to pull our data that we're going to work. How do we acquire our leads? And then we do a process which is called skip tracing. So we can try to track those leads down. How can we get a hold of them? And then we immediately put all that data into our CRM. And that's where that automation just works. So the CRM is designed so that the tasks come up on a daily basis that just happen. So many pieces of our business really just happen that we don't have to even check and verify that they're going on, because it just happens behind the scenes. So once a lead hits that CRM, they're automatically getting emailed, or they may be getting a text from us, or they may be getting, set to do an outbound call. All of those automated tasks are ready to go. And that, again, is so essential, because then we can look at our data and say, hey, these are consistently happening. The automated process happens whether we're here or not. And that's the goal. We're trying to set up that business so that we don't have to every single day be worried about, oh, did we do this? Did we do that? It's just set to go, kind of a set it and forget it with our data.
Well, I think it comes back to what I was talking about in the beginning with, it's important for us to make all the decisions up front, but then we need to be working on other things and focusing on other things and figuring out different ways to grow our business. And to do that, if we were having to continue to figure that out and make those decisions, that would bog us down. And so by having it automated, it really allows us to not be bogged down and just allows it to do what Matt was saying, like the processes that can just be repeatable are just repeated. And then it allows us to have our mind space be in stuff that needs decisions to be made or evaluated.
Okay. So for those of you, if you're just joining us now, I'm here with Tina Palma and Matt Hodkevich.
Yes.
I can't believe I did that.
That's
But
okay. I'm just teasing you about it anyway.
I know. But we're talking about setting up your business for success and talking about automation, process systems. If you guys have questions while we're watching this, please post them in the comments. This is the time to ask. Like I said, these two are really the gurus when it comes to this. They're super awesome at it. They've tested tons of different processes and things like that and really got their business running like a top. And so if you do have questions along the way, please be sure to ask them. So as you guys kind of touched on that automation piece, I mean, and we sort of talked about this in the beginning, for somebody, like I said, this can be all super overwhelming. We already talked about the importance of the CRM. What do you think are a couple other things that would be essential for somebody to get started and like really set up their business for success outside the CRM?
I think that it's important for people to really kind of in the back of their mind know what's the next thing after that so that they can start networking around that, evaluating that, you know, whatever. So like early on for us, when I got in our business full time, I really figured out that our assistant she kept all our tasks in one place and Matt kept them somewhere else. And of course I did it a different way and we were kind of all over the board. And for me, that was the very next thing for us was like, we need to have our worlds be in the same place so that it's transparent for everyone to see it. I evaluated a bunch of tools at that point and we landed on a product called Monday.com. And I love it. We use it for everything. We use it in our business. I use it in our personal life, you know, like all our travel is in there. We created templates for if we're purchasing a new property to make sure that, you know, we get insurance on it and the utilities switch over to us, you know, all the tasks. We just have templates now that automatically assign to people. It's really customizable. It's really easy. So that's another big one for us is to just have that like project management tool.
I was gonna say, it was really, it was, the CRM did so many things for us to automate getting our leads in there and that follow-up and all of that. But what we quickly learned is once we acquired a property, we didn't really have a workflow, you know, from beginning to end. And there's so much to do before you even close on the property. Once you close on the property, and then you're maybe, you know, if you're rehabbing the property, getting it clean, getting it staged, listing it, selling it, you know, there's so many tasks in between there. And like Tina said, getting on the same page with everybody in the team, we needed a product like that could really put that all together for us so that there were, you know, we weren't missing any steps in the process. Right now, just to kind of give you an idea, we're flipping 7 properties right now. So anywhere from, we literally bought 2 last Friday and we've got one that's listed right now. So from everywhere in between, when you start to scale to that level, if you don't have those steps, you're going to miss something. And it's very crucial. You know, all of those steps have to be done and you just don't want to miss any. So that's probably our second most important system for us, is at any given time, you can see where you're at in any task of the business.
Okay, and so I think one of the other things I wanted to bring up that we talked about actually, you know, at our retreat a couple weeks ago was, you know, staying in your own lane, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are really good at that. And I think that's something, especially if you're in, you know, a business with a partner, even if you're a solopreneur, what does it mean to stay in your lane?
Well, I think we even struggled with that for a long time. Matt and I have very complementary skill sets and personalities. And sometimes we combat it a little bit over who's right or which way it should happen and all of this. And earlier this year, we brought a partner on. And in order to do that, we really had to do this high level vision of what does our business really look like and who's responsible for what. And so that really forced us to create, this is my lane, this is our partner's lane, and this is Matt's lane, and identify which tasks are in which. With that said, it means that at the end of the day, I'm responsible for our systems, our processes, our marketing, but Matt or Dan easily can come in and say, hey, I would like to see this be better, or we can troubleshoot around different things.
Yeah, we talk about how we can improve the business, but we're not really getting in the weeds of the tasks of that lane, of that marketing, because that's really something that Tina owns. And then when it moves on to the next step, excuse me, we have acquisition. We talk about what's the best way to handle the calls, the homeowner appointments, getting the property, but ultimately that's Dan's lane and that's where he works in. And so he's making sure that all those steps happen. Once we acquire a property, then my lane is really taking that to closing, getting it rehabbed and sold. And so you can see where we have these very specific lanes, and we kind of manage that lane and make sure that all the tasks day to day are happening within there. But it does allow all of us in the business to talk about how can we improve those steps within those lanes to just make the whole business run more efficiently.
And I think it's important too that we're all open to the criticism per se. I can't get all bristly if Matt has a comment about, I think we could get in front of more people, or, yesterday we were at a property and I made a comment and Matt says, stay in your own lane. But that's true. Like, we are, the fact that we have open communication and are pretty transparent, at the end of the day, it's his world. I get it, but I still am going to come in and have my opinion about house, and he still has opinions about the way I'm doing things too. So, we've identified it, but we have to be open to each other's input.
Well, even just at a basic level of it is, when you have a business like this, you can't do it all, right? I mean, you can't be effective if you are doing all the marketing and you're talking to homeowners and you're, managing the rehab and you're doing your books, the QuickBooks, whatever it is, your CPA task. You've got to find people to do all of those things. And that's part of the job, right? To figure out who's using their best skills in the right place so that you can make the entire thing run efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about that, I went to a seminar, it'll almost be a year ago, with Sean McCluskey on unique genius zone type stuff. And that's sort of what I think about when you're in your own lane, right? Is figuring out what you're best at and what your skill set is, and then taking that times 100. Because if you put yourself, in every single one of those positions, you'll do everything sort of mediocre versus that one thing really well. Right. And so
I think that's super valid. And I also think initially, like, both Matt and I, we really like to understand everything. We really like to be the best at everything. And we had to stop trying to do that and allow other people to do it better than what we were doing it anyway, So
well, I think a lot of us get in our own mind that, how can I pass this task on to somebody else? They're never going to do it as good as I do. And there's really two ways that can go. One, that may be true, but if you want to do that task every single day, I'd rather find somebody that can do it 85% as efficient as me, but have it done consistent. The other part of that is sometimes it's a little humbling to realize that actually I wasn't the best at it. It was better to find somebody who likes doing that skill and just can rock that and let them run with it, because they can grow that so much better than I can. So don't be afraid to open your mind to handing off tasks.
It's funny you say that. When we first hired a company to come clean our personal house, they would come in and then Matt would go afterwards and be like checking everything. And he's like, I could do this better. I could do this better. I could do this better. And I was like, yeah, but the point is you didn't have to do any of it. We didn't have to clean the house. Now, if we want to deep clean on a thing, on a specific area of our house, it's not this big overwhelming. We have to get it clean first and then do, the additional. So it was a total mindset change for us to be like, yeah, maybe they didn't clean it as intricately as we would have cleaned it, but they cleaned it.
And we didn't have to.
Yes, and we didn't have to. It was good enough for now.
Right, because you're determining what your time is worth, right? And so for you to build your business, I mean, you pick that genius zone more or less that you're good at and find somebody else to do those other things. Because if you sit there and do things all by yourself, right, for too long, you're not going to grow and you're not going to scale and you're not going to do the things that you need to do for your business. And so if anything, right, setting up successful businesses and systems and processes is more or less about like a mindset shift, is what it sounds like, right?
I definitely agree with that. Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. So what advice would you have? I mean, because we're kind of getting to about the end of our time, believe it or not, but what advice would you have for an entrepreneur, whether it's in real estate investing or some type of other business? What would you say are the most important, first 3 steps, for instance, for somebody to do if they wanted to start something?
Do you want to give yours first?
Well,
or do you want me to give mine first?
I have 2 answers. One, the actual tasks, like take the action. Obviously, if you're in this business, find your leads, skip trace those leads, figure out how to track these people down and track these people down. Start hitting the phones, just take the action. Don't be so afraid to, I don't have a website yet. I've got to get business cards. I've got to set up my, those things are important. But if you really want to get some traction and get excited in this business, take the action. Don't be afraid, just do it. From a kind of a different level of that, we talk a lot about finding your why. And I think that's so important. It's so important to understand, why is it you want to do this? Why do you want to take this jump? Because, for most people, it really is more than just money. It has to be more than just money. You've got to figure out why you want this to succeed, because at the end of the day, it's going to get hard. It's going to get tough. It's going to get mundane. You're going to get bored. You're going to cry. You're going to be like, why am I doing this? If you don't have a why strong enough, it's not going to be money, and people will give up. And we see that all the time. So understand what your why is, go for it, build goals around that, build a vision around it. And that's what's going to get you through the tough times.
That's funny. So my number one was, you have to have a strong enough why, because when it gets hard, you need it to be around you so that you're still pushing through, I mean, you can take it to if you're doing a long endurance race or something like that, it gets super hard in there and it's easy to give up. But if you're really focused on, I can get to the end of this or get through this tough part, I think that's really important. I think it's really important to find somebody that can coach you, that get yourself surrounded in a community of people who are further along than you are or doing the same thing that you are, so that they're supporting the situations that you're in, that they are holding you accountable. It's giving you a place to go with your questions and all of those types of things too.
And if you share your why with them, when it does get tough, they're going to remember, or they're going to remind you of, what you're pushing towards. So
yes, for sure.
Awesome. I think that's really great advice. And obviously that's outside of the system piece, right? You have to know what you're doing first in order to be able to set up your business for success, to know why you're doing it, right?
Right.
For sure.
Yes. And then when you have that community, then, I can't even tell you how many hours I've saved because I reach out to you guys and say, who else is doing this? And then we all chime in and say, oh, I found this, or I did this, or this one works. And it saved me so many hours of trying to figure it all out myself, because somebody else has already done it or figured it out. And I can just work with what they have or take it and go from there.
All right, you guys heard it here. Find a community that is going to be supportive of you in your goals, figure out your why, and then all of that stuff kind of falls in line after that once you have that plan set up of what you want to do. Regardless of the business that you're in, figure that stuff out. Automation, business systems, all that stuff comes second when it comes to you figuring out your why and why you want to do this. So Matt and Tina, thank you so much for joining me today. Katie has been posting information about Wisco Property Solutions in our comments. So if you want to get a hold of Matt and Tina, you're able to get a hold of them there. You can also private message them on Facebook. I assume I didn't ask you guys that, but
yeah,
I would
for sure.
that might be one of the good ways to get a hold of you. Also, there's their line to call into to Wisco Property Solutions. You guys can get a hold of them that way. If you're looking to get a hold of us here at Property House, you can give us a call. Our website is posted here as well. Katie has posted that. You can also personal message me here on Facebook. Please check out our website. All of these videos are available on our website in the video library. You can take a look there. And then also on our Instagram, you can see a lot of our before and after pictures. It's at Property House Partners. Next week is bonus week. I'm going to leave it as a surprise right now for what we're going to be talking about. You guys will see a post. It'll probably come out on Monday of what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to it. Matt and Tina, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. This was really super great insight. And hopefully those folks that are looking to start a business, you guys can follow the steps that Matt and Tina have. They run a really successful business in Wisconsin and continue to kick some butt. So
thanks for having us.
Yep.
We were kind of nervous to do this, and you made it pretty painless.
Yeah, super fun. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you all next week. Have a good week.